Hey church, today I wanted to come to you and ask you a simple question. Are you an apologist is my simple question for you. And I guess a lot of people would ask the question, what is an apologist? And it's not somebody who apologizes all the time. Sometimes I've been accused of apologizing too much for things that I can't control or didn't have anything involved in, but I apologize for oh, I'm sorry that happened to you even, I guess. But it's not that at all. An apologist is actually someone who offers an argument in defense of something controversial. It's a very simple definition. So we add the word Christian to the word apologist, and it brings on a whole new connotation for us as believers. We become Christian apologists, people who defend the faith. That's the short and long of it right there. As believers, we are called to defend the cause of Christ. So when we are challenged in our lives, by people around us that, how do you believe that? Well, that's an open door for you to defend what you believe. And so I'm going to read from 1 Peter chapter 3 here. And it's a couple different things here from these two verses, but it's chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. And it says, "But even if you should suffer for the sake of righteousness, you are blessed. And do not fear their intimidation, and do not be in dread. But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to make defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you. But," there's a but there, "but with gentleness and respect." Sometimes you have to pay attention to the word "but" when it gets put in Scripture, because it can shift a little bit. So in these two verses, we are instructed first that if we suffer for the sake of righteousness, that we shouldn't be in dread. And that's a good thing, because as believers, we are going to face intimidation. We're going to face persecution. We're going to face ideas that come contrary to our beliefs, and we're going to have to stand up and defend our faith, defend the things that we say we believe. When people ask you, how in the world can you believe that Jesus was the Son of God and that He came and lived a perfect life and then died on a cross and then rose again from the grave and then went up to heaven? How can you believe such a thing? And many other things that are in Scripture in the Bible that people find to be crazy ideas. And to be honest, they are crazy ideas, but they're the things that we believe, and they're the four foundations of our faith. He wouldn't be a very good God if He didn't do some amazing things, right? That's my opinion of that. But it's this idea that we need to be apologists, not apologizing for, but making a defense. Evan told me earlier that apologist is a word that comes from the Greek. That's where it comes from, and it means to defend. And if we look at verse 15 and we shift into that, there's several things that are here that are useful, but it says that we should always be ready, because we have Christ in our heart. And when we have Christ in our heart, we have a hope that resides inside of us that we should be willing to defend. When somebody calls you to give an account for what you believe, you should say, I have Jesus Christ in my heart. I have God living inside of me, and I can defend this, and then be ready. Also, again, we could go down this road, but how can you be ready if you don't know your Scripture? If you haven't studied, if you haven't prayed, if you haven't asked God to give you the knowledge, the strength, the wisdom, the patience, all of the things that you need to deal with those people who are trying to challenge you. Sometimes they're challenging you because of genuine interest, and sometimes they're challenging you because they want to make you look stupid. So you should always be ready. And then lastly, in the end of verse 15, I think this is one of the most important parts to me, is that when we do defend our faith, when we do tell people about the gospel, just in general, we should do so with gentleness and respect. We can always look to the example of Christ when He deals with those around Him who are genuinely asking questions of Him. He's not snarky, He's not smart, He's not mean, He's not arrogant. When people are genuine with Jesus, He is so gentle and respectful of them. Not that He's ever not gentle or respectful for the most part. There's some times where He does make points. But it's that notion that we need to be gentle and respectful. Brother Joe brought me up on stage on Sunday night, and he asked me to share the gospel with him in a bad way. And we think of that as a funny situation, but the truth is we all know people that we've heard sharing the gospel, whether we know them personally or not, but we've all seen the gospel shared in a way that was not respectful or gentle, where people are just basically condemning those around them. They're telling them they're just all going to hell, or you're a bunch of sinners and you're terrible and you're awful, and there's no gentleness, there's no respect at all. And it's hard to win people to Christ in that fashion. And that brings me to my last point. As we are as a church right now, we are coming into a time that is emphasizing the gospel to every home. It's a program through the KBC where we're going to try to get the gospel into every home in Kentucky and just see what happens. It's a great project because I believe that just the power of the gospel alone, just put in people's hands, people's ears, people's eyes, that power is enough by itself to bring people to salvation, much less me going in there and telling them about my life or anything like that. The gospel stands on its own. So backed by us and giving an example and giving our testimony, we should be able to see several won to Christ here in the next several months. It's going to millions of people, and it'll be a very valuable tool. I encourage you to stay plugged into our church as we find out more about this program. We'll be doing that in the month of March when we start going out and passing out packets to church, to houses all around our area. And hopefully you'll be plugged in for the next several weeks as we continue to talk about that, both online and in church. So I hope to see you guys soon. Remember to share and like our videos. As always, post comments, anything that you would like to see discussed as a topic. We would love to see those things, and we hope to see you soon.